Hello and welcome to Functional Family Fridays. This is Reiki Rita Roberts. So last week we talked about parents with favoritism, parents who favored one or more children over their others. So today's sort of a continuation, we're talking about sibling rivalry, sort of the outcome of what happens when there's favoritism. Okay, so what is sibling rivalry? Sibling rivalry is just what it says. Basically, children fighting amongst each other. It's an unhealthy competition between siblings that is usually created by the negative influence of their parents. Okay, so typically, and this is true because when you brought your second baby home, that first baby loved that child, wanted to touch it, hold it, be a parent itself. So the love was there, but somewhere down the line, something changed, right? And caused these two to start a power struggle, right? And typically, is from my experience as a Reiki healer and coach, it's always about the lack of love, right? So again, like I always say, nothing works in the absence of love. So when a child feels unloved or devalued and another one seems to be favored over another, then that automatically is going to get their instinct to fight that or take out that child. Okay? So let's talk about some of the negative family stereotyping of children by these favoritism parents. Okay, you've heard these terms. The golden child. Well, the golden child refers to the chosen child, the prodigal child, okay, that we refer to as being mom or dad's favorite. This child is held in high esteem by the parents. Parents also have high hopes and expectations that they could do no wrong in the eyes of the parent. So they're like, what's interesting is sometimes a golden child isn't even the most pleasant child, okay? Sometimes a golden child could be the hardest one to love. But again, as I said in my last video, sometimes the parent is afraid of the child and they've given their power over to the child, that now this child isn't easy to love, but it's become the position of the golden child because they're afraid of the child. And the other children they're not afraid of, so they're going to do whatever this golden child needs or wants. Okay? But typically, it's usually about the one that's easiest and they see most potential in. Okay, so that's a golden child. Then we've got the black sheep. How many people are black sheep? I was deemed the black sheep. I don't like that term, especially with all the, the issues we're having with black and white. I'm sure that's where it's got its name, but that's a whole other topic. So the black sheep refers to the member of the family who's deemed as a disgrace, right? Also referred to sometimes as a free spirit. They typically don't behave the same way as the other family members, and they're not willing to conform to the expectations of the parents. These children are often rebellious and often challenge the parents due to their desire to be understood, free from control, and live their own authentic life. So they're the black sheep. They're very different from the rest of the family, okay? So oftentimes you feel like you don't belong because you are very different, okay? I know I felt that way since age 8, right? Then there's what we call the forgotten middle child. The forgotten middle child refers to the child that feels excluded by the parents. Often the first child has a position, the baby are given special privileges and play specific roles for the family, whereby the middle child doesn't really play a specific role. They're just sort of stuck in the middle between the elder and the baby. So sometimes they feel like the forgotten child, right? So again, it's not uncommon for the forgotten child to be the black sheep, because they'll do whatever it takes to get attention from mom and dad, okay? And there's one other different negative stereotype, which is called the only child syndrome. So the only child syndrome refers to the single child with no siblings, so they have a tendency to be spoiled by the parent, okay? They often use the word princess when referring to a girl child, right? And they tend to be a little bit more spoiled and feel entitled. So this is where we get a lot of those entitled children that we feel are sort of resurrecting in the 21st century. So what causes sibling rivalry? So I've narrowed it down to 3 basic points, okay? Number 1, when a child feels emotionally neglected or unimportant by the parent due to their focus on the golden child or the baby, this creates a power struggle between the siblings for the parent's love and attention. So again, like I said earlier, it's all about the love, because children thrive on love. We all do. We're all in search of love. Okay, it's no different. So when the child feels emotionally neglected, or that they're not important or valued, or that their needs aren't important, then this causes sibling rivalry, because they're going to want to take out the source, okay? So the other second reason I came up with it is the child ensuring their survival. Because remember, children thrive off love. So survival is instinctive to a child. Therefore, a child will do or say anything to get the parent to see them as valuable, as important to them, okay? Because being valued to a child ensures that the child will be loved, protected, and will survive, okay? So it's very important for the child to feel needed, wanted, special, okay, and important, because that ensures their survival, so they don't feel neglected. And thirdly, the other reason that causes sibling rivalry is if the child feels they can no longer trust the parent to provide for their physical and emotional needs. So they will become ego-based, self-centered in order to ensure their needs are met. So when the child is done pretty much all it can do, this typically happens in the teen years, preteen, teen, and adult, has done all they can do to try to prove to the parent that they're valuable and they need their love. Whether they're successful or not, they still need the parent's love. If they've done all they can do and the parent still isn't getting it, then they're going to take matters into their own hand, okay? By somehow, getting rid of the source, right? Or making it very difficult for the source, being the golden or favored child, to get all the attention. So now you got problems starting to arise, okay? So the other point I want to stress now is, people say, well, where do I treat my kids all the same? I don't know why this is happening. Okay, I'll tell you why it's happening. Because treating the same is not the same as being a fair parent. Okay, and I'll explain that. Treating all your children the same is actually harmful. And you're going to say, what? Right? Now, what I mean by that is, if you took them all out for a treat and you bought them all the same, chocolate bar, that's fine, okay? Because you're treating them all the same. But a fair parent is different than being the same. A fair parent will encourage each child's authenticity for them to be who they are and will meet their emotional, physical, all their needs, okay? And not try to pigeonhole them into one spot, by being all the same. So there's work involved, as you can see. Being a fair parent is a ton of work because you have to notice, different things about each and every one of your children, what they like, what they don't like. You have to pay attention to all that. You have to do the work. It's no different than any other relationship, whether it be with your spouse, a friend, a colleague, your children. Okay, stop taking them for granted. You have to invest in focusing on what they like, what they don't like. It's like my mother trying to feed, let's forget about my mother. Let's give you another example. For example, always feeding your vegan child meat when your vegan child has been vegan for 15 years. Clearly they're going to say, Ma, Pa, do you not love me or pay attention to me? You not know that I'm vegan, for Pete's sake? That's an example, okay? It's the small little things that parents do, that everyone does for another human being, that makes them feel special, loved, and paid attention to, okay? So treating the same is not the same as being fair. Many parents believe that they're being fair and not showing favoritism by treating them all the same. But this won't eliminate sibling rivalry. That's why, okay? You got to find the special things in each one of your children, okay? And emphasize that. Because no matter how hard you try to treat your children the same, you cannot. You can't, nor should you, okay? Treat them the same. Treat them the way they choose to be treated. Just listen to their cues and they'll tell you, okay? Since all children are unique, rather than treat them all the same, encourage their individuality instead. This will make them feel special, boost their self-esteem, their confidence, and their faith in you that you love them. You don't even have to say the words, and they won't even have to say the words. They'll know that you love them, okay, by doing all these small little things, right? Think about the relationship you had with your spouse in the beginning. You had to learn about him or her. You had to learn all the little things that she or he liked, right, to make them feel special, to make them know that you love them and you feel they're special. Do the same with your children, for Pete's sake, okay? So when a child feels special, valued, appreciated for the authentic person they are, okay, they feel loved by you. When they feel loved by you, they have no desire to compete with their siblings for your attention because they know they already got it, okay? Therefore, sibling rivalry will not exist amongst your children, and I'm very fortunate that I'm doing the work and continue to do the work, and my 3 children don't feel threatened by each other, because I don't treat them the same. I treat them unique, and I love them for the uniqueness that they are, okay? Now, that doesn't mean as a parent there aren't some habits that they do that are going to drive you up the wall. Absolutely. But who doesn't have habits that drive you up the wall? Maybe your husband, your wife, or friend, or whatever, and you have habits that drive you up the wall. Part of loving unconditionally is learning to live with that, okay, and overlook them. So how does a parent stop or avoid sibling rivalry? So again, we've talked about that in a few points. Parents need to dedicate time and energy to repair their relationships with each of their children. Not one, not the one that's easy, it's every single one of your children, especially the ones that feel emotionally neglected and are emotionally sensitive, okay? They're going to give you the most trouble, okay? So parents need to reestablish emotional trust with their children, right? Because they got to a point where they don't trust anymore. They don't believe what you say. All your words are empty now because you've let them down and you've disappointed them so many times, and now they don't trust you. So you got to rebuild that trust so that they can feel vulnerable and open up their heart again to you. So there's a lot of work there, okay? But your children are worth it. Parents need to stop favoring and comparing one child with the other. My mother was famous for that. I would call her up and say, Ma, you know what my child did today, or you know what I did today? Oh yeah, your sister's kids did this, did that. Stop comparing. Focus on that one child, okay? The one who's speaking to you gets your attention then, all right? Be present. Put the phone down and do eye contact and pay attention. They're going to tell you how they feel. It's up to you to listen, okay? So, as you can see, this is a lot of work to being a parent, to being a good parent. Anyone could be a parent. Being a good parent is another story. You have to invest in it. So in order to avoid sibling rivalry, is you got to learn to be happy and have good emotional health first. That's your first step. If you think you're going to try to fix this without fixing you first, it's not going to happen, okay? Because you need to learn how to be confident and how to say no confidently, how to love unconditionally, and happy parents raise happy children. So you got to get happy and you got to get healed. So you can have that emotional intelligence, conscious parenting in order to be a mindful, fair, unconditionally loving parent, okay? So remember, as I said in the last video, the best way to know whether or not one child is being favored over another in your family is by watching and listening to the reactions from your other children, because the one that's being neglected will always tell you. So it's up to you to pick up those clues. So, how do we stop? Okay, one more way to stop favoritism. Stop playing favorites. Focus on each child as an individual, and this will eliminate the need for your child to compete with your other children, and they get the freedom to just be themselves. Okay, so stop playing favorites. No more favoritism. Okay, so how do we do that? My recommendation, as always, is you need lots of energy. Okay, you got to be happy, and you got to become that conscious parent with good emotional health. Okay, so I hope you found this video enlightening, and between the favoritism, sibling rivalry, why your children are fighting amongst each other, and obviously the solution is you need to work on yourself to be a stronger, healthier, more loving parent that's capable of dealing with each one of your children and meeting their needs so they feel loved. So my recommendation as your holistic parenting coach is to bite the bullet and get the healing that you need and to boost your emotions to be healthy, okay? So if you haven't already emailed me for the free chapter of Parents Who Play Favorites from my book, Parents of Price Tags, please do that now. Send me an email. Happy to do that. Put you on my mailing list, and I'll fire that out today. Okay? Also, let's get started checking in on your emotional health with my free emotional checklist. Go to thefunctionalfamily.ca, download the free emotional checklist so we can get started. Okay? From there, feel free to reach out. If you aren't already part of my free Facebook group called Stressful Family Relationships, please jump on and join that as well. Okay, so I hope that helps and you found that useful to start creating peace in your family, because that's what you really want, and start encouraging you to start doing the work on yourself, because trust me, this will not go away unless you take the step to make the change. And my life is so much more loving, peaceful, and happier, and I thank God every day that I have the courage to do it. So I'm here to help you do it as well. So feel free to reach out, download the free emotional checklist on thefunctionalfamily.ca. From my heart to yours, stay in the light of love, stay hopeful, and I'll see you next week. Bye for now.